Welcome to the Second Mess Podcast, one-stop shopping for Norwich nostalgia, networking, and news from the Hill. Stand by for your host, Randall H. Miller.
Welcome. Thank you, Fawn. That was my assistant, Fawn Leibowitz, without whom nothing would be possible around here. Thank you, Fawn. The following discussion was recorded on Wednesday, January 24th, and it dropped for subscribers to the podcast within 24 hours. And now that it's been close enough to 2 weeks or so, and I've given them a chance to take a whack at it first, I'm going to make it public here for public consideration. Up front, we need to know that there were absolutely zero preconditions for this discussion. I was given no left or right limits, nothing. In fact, General Broadmeadow ahead of time said, ask tough questions. So I did when appropriate, and I think we cover a lot of ground here. I'm going to drop you into the conversation right now. This is Lieutenant General John Broadmeadow, class of 83, current candidate for the presidency of Norwich University, and the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Alan Deforest, class of 75. You are both graduates of our illustrious university, 83 and 75, but you're also both graduates of this podcast. So thank you for returning.
Sure, thanks for having us.
Appreciate your time today. A bunch of things I wanted to talk about. One that I think we should probably just touch on. I have a feeling I know what the answers will be on it, and I know that the school can't give out any specific details on the recent departure of President Anarumo, but there's one or two questions that I think are fair that I just need to sort of get out of the way. As far as the school's wording on the announcement, was it 2 Fridays ago? Is there still sticking to that statement? I know you can't give specifics, but it said violation of our guiding values and policies. Is that still the case?
Yes, it is. I guess it's important to know that that statement was absolutely factual, accurate, and honest, and we absolutely stand behind it.
Is there any chance that it violated any sort of separation agreement?
No, it did not.
Okay, we can move on from that then. So I don't plan on beating up on messaging at all, but we should probably touch on it a little bit in the beginning. It's something that's probably we have a lot of strong points that probably hasn't been won, but that goes back, honestly, as far as I can remember. That goes back to when I was there, when General Todd was in his final couple of years and Rich Schneider came in. But, I think the school initially did a great job the evening before, specifically the development office. I got a call from Liz. I know others who did. It was very professional, really appreciated the heads up on it. But I really appreciated that courtesy call. And then the next morning, there was some confusion with some competing statements there. But what's the plan as far as strategic communications goes to improve it moving forward?
Well, these communications and the effectiveness of them are, always in the eye of the beholder. And admittingly, I'm sure it wasn't perfect. There was a little bit of confusion there in the beginning, but it was minor. So what we have done, we've hired a professional consulting firm to help us with that messaging. And not only the messaging, but the consistency of the message given, various employees to different constituents. So we understood we had to tighten that up a little bit. And when you have free and open conversations, the message can get a little confused and or change slightly. So can you always do better with that stuff? Absolutely. But we do recognize that it probably wasn't perfect, and that we'll do better. And with the public relation firm, working with our internal marketing people, working with leadership, I think that will be fine going forward.
What's the name of the firm that we hired?
It's a guy by the name of Kevin Ellis.
Yeah.
Who's a Montpelier guy and knows the university and knows the community very well.
General Broadmeadow, you put your hat in the ring for the presidency before, and your hat is in the ring again. What is it? What is it about that job that makes you look at it and say, "Okay, I want that job"?
Yeah, Randy, great question. So last time, just give you my personal background on it. So I was in between jobs, right? I was going from being the deputy commander at U.S. Transcom to being the chief of staff or the director of the Marine Corps staff, right? And I get this call from this search firm that says, "Hey, we have your name out here. A number of people have nominated you to be the president." And until that moment, now, had I thought about it, way back when, when President Schneider and I would see each other, we'd kind of talk a little bit about it. But I was in the middle of, a career that I was very happy with, and moving into a new job. And so this search firm, Academic Search, gives me a call, says, "Hey, you've been nominated for this. We'd really like you to consider putting in an application." And that screwed up a really great family vacation out on the Cape. We literally the next week, Karen and I had a house with out in Chatham, and we were going out to the Cape for a week, and our son and daughter-in-law and one granddaughter at that time were joining us, and all I could think about all week long, and all that Karen and I talked about was, "Hey, should we do this? I mean, what a big change." And so decided to, that yes, we love the university. This is a great post-Marine Corps opportunity. Threw my hat in the ring and went down that process. And I will tell you, it was a long and difficult process. Talked to the commandant, my boss, and let him know what I was doing. I was right up front with him about where I was going, and
was he supportive of? Was he supportive of that? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
actually, no. He actually was. He was very supportive of it. He thought it was a great opportunity for me, and encouraged me to do it. And I, he was very gracious when I offered my resignation and said, "Hey, sir, I don't want you to have to feel like you got to stick with me through this whole thing." I had already had one 3-star job. I was in my second one, and so I said, "Hey, I'm ready to move on if that's what you want me to do." And in all fairness, he sat on that for a little while and gave me an opportunity to go through the process. Anyways, it was a long process. I was very, very honored to have gotten as far as I did in it, and have no regrets about that whatsoever. So,
Alan, can I ask you? I know General Broadmeadow was a semifinalist for it. Why wasn't he a finalist? What would have made him a finalist in that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry to ask that right in front of you, but I imagine you know the answer, General Broadmeadow.
He's heard it already.
Okay.
Yeah, well, number one, that was more than 4 years ago. Things were very different 4 years ago for Norwich University. Rich Schneider was on his way out, at the end of a very successful 28-year presidency, and our needs were very different than they are today. And also the complication of John still being on active duty. When could he assume the position? That kind of thing. Also, the issue of not a terminal. He did not have a terminal degree, a doctorate. And back then, the board was far more sensitive to that issue than they are today. And I think we're in a much better place, understanding that a terminal degree is very important in a educational institution. But what's more important is leadership. And that's exactly what we need now. Leadership with integrity, honesty, and that John has that in spades. And the board has recognized that. John also has a leg up because he's been involved directly as 2 years as a trustee. He understands our problems today. He'll hit the ground running. And that's also very important to us. So very different time. 4+ years ago, different issues, different needs. And so we're addressing, and we're going to hire. We've nominated somebody who can address our needs today.
Did the board ever consider circling back to the other 3 finalists?
Yes, yeah, briefly, but because of what I just told you, there's going to be a learning curve with all of them. And we felt we had the perfect candidate right there in our midst. Someone who understands our problems today, but also someone we know very, very well. I mean, and all very comfortable. It was absolutely unanimous by the board.
I know time is of the essence, so I imagine another full search was probably not practical.
Another full search would take 9 to 12 months. And we may get there someday, but right now, that's a long time, and we need we need action, and we need leadership today.
So we announced General Broadmeadow's nomination to much glee. I think it was overwhelmingly very well received. There was a week of town halls and meet and greets and opportunities to interact with him and ask questions. And then that feedback was going to go back to the board for a final decision. And then a rather abrupt announcement came last Tuesday, a few hours before the first virtual town hall. General Broadmeadow, can you talk me through that to the extent that you're comfortable?
Yeah, no, Randy, thanks. I will tell you through this whole process. I just want to back up for 1 second and thank Alan for the words that he just talked about. Both Alan and the board as a whole have been incredibly supportive of this nomination for me, and have been very patient with me. So here's the scenario, right? The announcement comes out. I'm the nominee. I go to bed that night. What was it, Tuesday night? Whatever. I can't remember what night the thing hit the board. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm ready to do it. Karen and I had a lot of conversations about it. Wake up the next morning, log on, says, hey, you have a message from your medical provider. Go in, and I check it out. It was the results of an MRI that I had taken before, and it clearly says that I've got a pretty significant, potentially have a very significant or a significant medical issue. I don't want to overblow it. So now I'm in a quandary, right? So we decided, the initial thought is, hey, suck it up, Moraine. Just put this in the back of your head. Let deal with it when the time's right to deal with it. But right now, you've got more important things to do to press on. And I will tell you, Randy, and this is something that I know you and Chris Cadigan have talked about, and others. It just became really hard to do. To compartmentalize something that significant. And again, Alan was terrific in working with me on it. My initial inclination was, hey, let's press with these town halls. Let's get through it. But then as I thought through it, I said, I really need to let the board know. And, the whole board of trustees deserves to know, what their nominee is facing. And so I was kind of in a quandary. Here I'm getting ready to step in, do these town halls. I want to be honest, transparent, and fully answer all the questions. But we can't pull the board together. It's Tuesday morning now, and we can't pull the whole board together. To start these. Before I have to start these town halls. So I went to Alan and I asked Alan. I said, Alan, can I think we need to push these off. I said, I can't announce this medical condition publicly without the board of trustees knowing. We can't get the board together in time. I recommend and I would ask that we put these off so that I can tell the board first, give the board a chance to consider what they're buying into, make a decision on whether to stay with me or do something else, and then reschedule them later should the board decide to stay with me. And I'm very, very honored that the board said, hey, we're there. I was completely transparent with the board about what I'm facing, and they came back and said, we're with you. We'll stay the course. And this actually offers some opportunities, right? That last round of town halls and interviews were very rushed. I mean, literally, you should have seen the schedule. I was from 08 until 2200 for 2 days in a row, just moving from town hall to town hall. Everything was fairly rushed. Now this lets us go from now until we're thinking March, to very deliberately meet with a lot of constituencies and to really listen, hear their concerns, help shape my priorities as the president. bring those concerns back to the Board of Trustees and let them give me direction how they want. And we can do that in a little bit more of a deliberative way at that point. And that's the intent right now.
Alan, I imagine the reaction from the board was probably silence for a few minutes. What was how could you just give without betraying any of the trust that goes on in those sacred chambers? What was the general reaction?
They did kick me out too first, Randy, though, so they could do it. So this was, even I didn't have a say in this.
Did they say, General Broadmeadow, why don't you go get a coffee?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was. I knew going in, of course. John told me, and board leadership had some idea as to what was going on, but the board did not. And to John's credit, he was insistent about letting the board know. He wanted them to be the first to know, which was the right thing, and that's just a credit to him. So yeah, the board was incredibly disappointed and shocked because we know we were good to go. We were ready to go with this whole thing, and but sometimes you just have to react to events, and so we did ask John to leave the room. We talked about it. We talked about options, alternatives, and it was fairly obvious that our best solution is to hang with him and wait 6 weeks till we have further clarification. But honestly, we're confident that John Broadmeadow is going to be the next president of Norwich University.
General Broadmeadow, I don't want to violate your privacy, and you're under no obligations to share anything with anybody. But I'm wondering if at some point do you plan on getting more specific with the diagnosis, like once it's something you've dealt with, or have you thought through that at all?
Yeah. So Randy, like a lot of things, this is in the very early stages, right? The initial prognosis, I don't even know the right medical terms. Doctors tell you, we're going to give you this info, but don't go researching on the web. Don't do this because it's very complicated. It's very unclear and complicated at this point. I'm really trying not to read stuff on the web and all the rest of this stuff and pretend that I have all the answers. So it's in the very early stage, right? And quite honestly, it can go in a wide range of directions here. It could be something that's fairly easy to deal with. We'll just watch it and stay on it. It's more likely that it will, and I can say this because my doctor has at least told me this, it's more likely it's going to require some type of treatment as we go forward. And then there's always, the bad options, and those are out there as well. But none of those, all I know right now is the range of things, right? I've got a follow on with my doctor on Monday. They've now asked me to come in for a series of tests before, the March date. They're working with me to try and move that March date up for the final round of tests and biopsy. I'll say that, right up front. They're working very hard to try and get me in there. I got to tell you, I'm a very fortunate guy. I am plugged into a terrific, absolutely terrific medical capability through Walter Reed, Bethesda, the executive medicine clinics down there. And they're taking very, very good care of me. So I've got some wonderful doctors. I am getting some their dialogue with me is terrific. They're being as upfront and transparent as they can. So I'm trying to reflect the same thing to the university writ large. All our alumni, the board, everybody that has a stake in this next presidency deserves to know. I'm going to reserve the right to give a lot of details out until we really understand what this is and what I'm really facing. But I'll make a promise that to the degree that's appropriate, I'll be very transparent when we finally understand what it is. And I think that's important. We see that in all sorts of communities, all sorts of illnesses out there today. People are very transparent in what they face. But look, Randy, I'm very confident that we're gonna get through this, and this is gonna be something that's at least treatable. If not, we're just going to monitor it. But I need to let the doctors help me work through that. But you do have my promise. I'll let everybody know. Once I'll be open and transparent because our university deserves that in their leader. So.
Well, first and foremost, we're all concerned with your health. That's the most important thing in this whole thing.
Hey, Randy, I will tell you, my phone, over the last 3 weeks, my phone has blown up 3 times. First with the tough decision that Alan and the board had to make. Secondly, when I was announced as the nominee, but even more so, when the announcement came out that we had to push it off till March because I needed to get clarity on my health concern. This will be tough. Wow, tougher than I thought. The feedback from friends, the feedback from people I don't even know, the way the board, literally reached out and supported me, has been overwhelming. So I really genuinely appreciate it.
Well, whatever it is, I've no doubt you're going to slay it. But Alan, there's a fiduciary responsibility here of doing some parallel planning. This won't happen, but God forbid if things change, what's the plan?
Well, the plan is to be ready for the information in March, and we do have a plan B, and that would be a search for a president. And the question still is, probably it would be a limited search as opposed to a national search because timing is still an issue. But yeah, we do have a plan B, and that would only be prudent. And as you say, it's our fiduciary responsibility to do that. But I'm betting on, and I'm very confident that John will be our next president.
General Broadmeadow, you seem like a bulletproof nominee to me. So this question, no Marine likes to expose their weak flank, but what do you see as your biggest challenge to getting the nomination? Or I'm sorry, being appointed.
You mean besides the medical issue?
Yes, sir.
I with the support of the board, Randy, I'm very confident that there aren't a lot of obstacles to this. I personally am very confident that I can do this job. I've got a good sight picture on it. Karen and I have talked an awful lot about the job and where we want to go. That said, we really do. And I can say this as both the trustee and the nominee. In order to be a legitimate president, the board needs to hear from the various constituencies. Our academic leadership, our faculty, their leadership, they need to hear from the alumni. They need to hear from all of these people that have a stake in our university, and they deserve to give the board the feedback. Now, I have a lot of confidence when I go in front and I talk to these folks. I listen to their concerns, and I bring all that on board. I am very confident that they will see that I'm ready to do this job, and I can do it. But they have to be given a voice, and they have to have a say. So I don't in any way want to make it seem like this is a shoe-in or anything else. I genuinely appreciate the board's overwhelming confidence and support in this. But I also know, and we've actually talked about this, that these town halls, these interviews really do provide a chance for feedback to the board from all these constituencies. I think I'll do okay going through it. At least, I haven't failed in that in any of my endeavors in the past to convince people that I can do, to the tough jobs that I'm facing.
So if all goes well, the students at graduation will be honored by having their diploma handed to them by you, sir?
I sincerely hope that that is the case. I've been up on that dais twice now, and once as the commissioning officer, and once as a trustee now. And I will tell you, I am really looking forward to being there as the president of this university in May, or when. I guess I should know the date, right? I don't know the actual date right off the top of my head. I think it's actually in April this year.
I think it is end of April.
Yeah, the end of April. I think I will. I am really looking forward to being the president of our university and handing out diplomas to our grads this year.
Well, long-term goals take a lot of time and thoughtfulness, but my father always told me, he said, anytime you go into a new job, he said, try to get a couple of quick wins, get some points up on the board. Have you thought about that at all? What would those look like?
Yeah, so I've given it a lot of thought, and I've been doing a lot of reading, and so a couple of things. One, the board has already given me some initial guidance. Hey, we think these are the priorities. I've given them some feedback on my initial thoughts, primarily as a trustee. One of the things that I'll point out right up front is that while I've been a trustee for 2 years, the biggest thing that I've learned is this is an incredibly complex endeavor. Running a university today is not easy. So I'm not going to pretend that 2 years as a trustee has given me all the answers. In that regard, my priorities will be shaped by these town halls and interviews that I'm going to do, right? That these I don't want to call them listening sessions because I owe people some feedback to questions they're going to ask me, but my intent is to really listen and encourage them to provide feedback to the board. So I fully expect that when this is all said and done and I move from nominee to being the president, that the board is going to give me even more refined guidance. But here's what I'm thinking of right now, Randy. Kind of three, and I've got a fourth that's evolving kind of priority. Priority number one, we've been through a bunch of shocks, COVID, all the national conversation about the worth and the value of a university education is really making people question, should I go to college? And then unfortunately moving our president on, moving a senior leader on unexpectedly is never easy. So these three big shocks really need to be addressed right up front. And I think my initial focus really needs to be internally bolstering those foundational values that we have. We're a values-based institution, right? A lot of colleges, we'll talk about it, but if you're a Norwich grad, you understand that those foundational values are incredibly important to who we are and what this institution represents. So I've got to get in, I've got to make sure that we're doing those things that we're saying and that they match, that really those foundations are intact and being reinforced, both internally and with great confidence externally. Second priority, fiscal stability. Again, the every university today, at least every small liberal arts college is really going through financial turmoil. Now we're in good shape overall. We've got issues though, and we've got challenges in that it's going to require a president being very hands-on right up front with the fiscal situation. At the very least, we got to get a new CFO on board, right? I will tell you, if most of the people out here don't know Jim Dunkelman. Jim Dunkelman is an interim CFO for us. He's been in the position for a while. He has helped give great clarity into our financial situation and is doing yeoman's work for our university. Most people will never know what he's doing out there. But he's only temporary, and he's stayed beyond what he originally thought. So number one, we've got to get a new CFO on board, and I want to put my fingerprints on that. But more importantly, get into the details of providing financial stability in the face of all those headwinds out there. If you probably read the Wall Street Journal article here, I think it was last Saturday, the Saturday essay for the Wall Street Journal. It's saying people are really questioning why go to college today, and those headwinds provide a lot of financial challenges. So it's financial stability, second priority. My third priority, enrollment and retention, and that's the heart of the school, right? We exist for both our current students and our future students to make sure that we are providing them with a value, a education that meets the university's mission statement. So I'll be very hands-on in enrollment and retention. And then where I'm evolving on kind of a fourth priority is kind of a look ahead. We need to get on with a strategy that begins to look out, get beyond the current environment, and really start to set a direction for where we're going. When Rich Schneider was leaving, we had the great fortune of, we had the bicentennial, right? We were very focused on getting through our 200th anniversary, very focused on the fact that the school is in great shape. We're doing really well. And I don't want to say that was a culminating point, because there were strategies that were developed that began to look forward. But as you do a transition, those strategies start to kind of morph and evolve and maybe kind of diffuse. We've been working on strategies over the last few years, but we really haven't set a real good, firm, here's where we're going in the future. And I think that's one of the things that I need to take on, right along with those top three priorities. Really begin to set a future direction with the board on where are we going as an institution, and get a no-kidding strategy that allows us to take where we are today and do the things necessary to push this university toward its third century. And I think those are kind of the ones that I'm walking in the door with right now. Of course, ready for guidance and direction from the board. I will be listening to everybody out there and taking a lot on board. But one of the things you're going to find with me too is I'm very comfortable in setting directions, firm hand on the tiller, taking all that advice in, compiling it all, and making the decisions and being accountable to the board. I'm ready to do that. That's what I want to do.
We face a lot of challenges. You just hit on a bunch of them. And the recruiting part is, probably number one or two with every school across the country right now. I believe the Marine Corps is the only service that actually hit its number this past year as far as recruiting goes. Is there anything we can steal from them?
Yeah. So I'm 3 years separated from being in the middle of the Marine Corps recruiting issues, but it was on my plate nearly daily, when I was the chief of staff. But here's where we'll use it as an example. Here's where I'm proud. The Marine Corps is not afraid to say who it is and who we're going after. Right. Amen. And the Marine Corps pulled no punches. You're not joining the Marine Corps to get the GI Bill. You're not joining the Marine Corps. We'll go back to an old slogan: "Never promised you a rose garden." Right? That's the Marine Corps held true to that. And I believe that Norwich has a very similar brand. Not that we need to be tough and macho and all the rest of that. That's not what I'm implying. But let's state who we are. Let's clearly state how great this institution is, and talk to those. We're not going after the same kind of student that's going to go to Harvard or MIT, right? We don't want that. That's not who we are. But we need to be out there talking very, very clearly about who we are and why we're a good mix for the right students to come to our school. As a trustee, I'm looking at this marketing campaign that we have out there, and everybody will have opinions on it. But you know what? We got briefed over this last board meeting. This branding and marketing effort, and a real focus on reaching out to prospective students in a meaningful way. It kind of matches what I just talked about. Let's talk about who we are and go hunt for these students in JROTC units and the rest. It's paying dividends. We got hit with some optimistic numbers. Now, proof will be in the fall when the core is the core numbers are up and the civilian students are there, and where our enrollment and the melt. That's another one of those university terms that I've come to learn. The melt is less. That I have pretty good confidence that the work that's been done on this branding and marketing campaign matches what I just talked about, and it will begin to pay us dividends. Not going to solve all the problems in this first year, but I'm confident that we're on the right track, and there's folks doing really good work to make that happen. And again, an area on that third priority for me that I will have my fingerprints all over, and I'll be reinforcing the good efforts that have been done by some folks working real hard up in the university today.
Alan, I know the number fluctuates, but what's the endowment sitting at approximately, ballpark?
It's about 255 million.
And what's
It's been as high as 315 or so. In recent times, it's been much lower than where it sits right now. Never dipped below 2. So we had a good year as far as return, despite the fact that we are taking more money out of the endowment because of financial challenges. But we still grew it despite that this year. So that was very encouraging. Randy, just what John was touching on, it's really, and he gets this, absolutely. It's about enrollment, it's about retention, and it's about the endowment. And we solve those 3 issues, we're golden. And my father always used to like to say, we're in pretty good shape for the shape that we're in. And there are a lot of headwinds out there for higher education, the military, et cetera, et cetera. But we got it. And an example of the new thinking, John said, we're actually chasing individuals now. We're actually going out and recruiting individual parents and individual students and talking to them one-on-one. Everybody's got an admissions counselor now, and they're working with them right from the get-go. And the initial numbers are incredibly encouraging. We've hired people now, and their sole purpose is to go out and visit every junior ROTC program in the country. We hadn't done that in a long time. We got away from that. And that's just one example of what's happening. We have a program now called Quick Start that these counselors will be working with students who have been admitted right from the get-go as to signing up and getting them squared away as far as their Norwich matriculation. We used to wait until August, and then John talked about the melt. Well, now we're working with them right from the beginning, and not only do we have these students accepted, and the numbers are very, very good, but we're working with them to sign up and get ready to start. Ready, start. And that, I think, is going to pay huge dividends. We have a new director of admissions who understands this process like we haven't in quite a while.
You mentioned the endowment 250. If you could wave a magic wand, what's the number that makes Alan Deforest sleep like a baby at night?
800.
Woof, woof. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, the 800, if we traditionally take our 5% draw, that covers all the gapping that we do with our students. In other words, we're not meeting the financial needs of all of our students to go to attend Norwich, and we know that with the FAFSA filings, et cetera, et cetera. So we're falling short of that, of around $7,000 to $8,000 a year. We know we got to make that up. That also drives retention. Probably our biggest issue with retention is finances. Not being able to stick with it, not being able to make up that $7,000, $8,000 a year, and that only grows with inflation. So, that's the 800,000 would solve the problem.
Million.
The 800 million would solve the problem, and we plan on getting there.
Is there a capital campaign on the horizon still?
Yes, there is. Yep.
When will that kick off?
Well, we're talking about that right now. With we purposely have delayed it until we get our new president on board and let him have an opportunity to review the process, to review the strategies, to review the goals. And I know he's going to do that forthwith, and we're going to plan on hitting the ground running with that soon.
So General Broadmeadow, fundraising. I mean, I'm sure you've done some fundraising in the past for charities or nonprofits and stuff. This is a little bit different. What's your approach to fundraising going to be? Are you comfortable sitting with dinner with somebody and asking them for $1 million?
Answer to that one is yes, Randy. I am, because we got a good product, right? We've got the kind of institution that, as you look across this national conversation that's going on, we've got a university that people recognize we need to have. I've got a lot of confidence in what Norwich continues to provide out there. So I don't want to pretend it's easy, but when you have a good product, that's a great baseline to start from. Yeah. Have I walked out for a university and done fundraising of, hundreds of millions of dollars, like Alan was talking about, where we want the endowment? No, I haven't. I've been in the military, but you know what? As you pull together programs in the military, for your commands or your organization, whatever it is, and you've got to convince senior leadership throughout your service, throughout the Department of Defense, go in front of Congress and testify about programs and convince people who have a whole bunch of agendas that your program, your agenda is worth it. Yeah, I think that's kind of reflective of what we've got, of what fundraising at the university is all about. So yeah, you start with a good product. You engage people. You find out, where do our values align? Where are you? How can you help us? And how can we bolster your charitable, goals and your charitable giving? And with that good product, I'm pretty confident that I can sit down with people, and especially the right people, and find, common ground on why they should give their treasure to our university. Again, not trying to minimize it, but I'm very confident that I can do that. I don't think it's rocket science, especially when you've got a good product. It's more personality and having faith in what you got. And I have faith in Norwich.
This is for both of you or either of you. We've been connected to the town of Northfield for quite a long time. The university can't thrive unless the town thrives along with us. And as it thrives and has more economic opportunity and such, the quality of life for everybody goes up, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to recruit world-class faculty with families to the middle of Vermont. Have you had any discussions about Northfield economic development, maybe helping attract investment or something like that?
Yeah, we have, Randy, and you're right. One kind of depends on the other. Northfield, I'm not sure what it would look like without Norwich. It would be pretty ugly. So it kind of goes both ways, and both of us have to take care of our internal business. But that being said, the better Northfield does, the better we'll do. And that has been recognized by the past administration. And we are working with some alums, you may be aware of this, that to do some very nice development within Northfield. And we absolutely want to encourage it. We're also doing some direct work by improving some of the buildings and homes along Central Street. And I think you've seen the results of some of that work, and it's very nice. So it's a combination of those kinds of things. One, we have to take care of our own financial business, but two, we absolutely want to work with Northfield and help them in every way we can, because it's in our best interest as well.
Yeah. And Randy, I'll just add that it's also personal for me. I think Karen's from Montpelier. Her mom used to teach at the little schoolhouse out there in Northfield. So we love the central Vermont area. So this is personally important for us as well. We Montpelier and everything that they've gone through recently with the floods and all the rest. So I'll expand it beyond just Northfield, but the entire central Vermont area. It's important to me personally, to both Karen and I, but also, as you pointed out, to the university as well. So So we're all in on this relationship that we have that we can both benefit from, and see where we can improve together, and continue to move into the future together. So it's personal, and it's professional with this job.
Well, you mentioned Karen Broadmeadow, who is also a graduate, and I believe the president of the Partridge Society right now.
Yeah.
And has been involved as a volunteer and your partner for some decades. I would never ask a spouse to speak for another spouse because that never goes well.
Don't get me in trouble, buddy.
Yeah, no, but however, how does she feel about potentially becoming our first lady?
Randy, you already said it. I think I've said this to Alan before. I know I've said it to others. And some people have said it to me that they probably picked the wrong person to be on the board of trustees. Karen's a doer. Karen gets things done, and she's had her own professional career in her own right, and she loves this university. I'll say it probably even more than I do. It means an awful lot to both of us together. She's all in on this, and she supports it. She has been my rock through my whole career, through some real tough times in my military career, and she's all in on this one. When I got the news that morning, when I finally read that preliminary report, you see those words written on the paper for the first time. You turn to somebody and she was right there for me, and literally hours talking it over together. Both the enthusiasm to go in the job, and then the tempering it with taking care first and foremost of my health and as importantly my family. And she's been right there beside me. So yeah, you get a 2-for-1 with us here, and you get two grads that love this school, and her service to our university has been great.
There was a great write-up on her just a week or two ago in that Women Kicking Glass series.
Yeah, so y'all probably thinking that we got some kind of campaign going here. That's been in the hopper to go for a little bit here. So
I know.
It was just kind of serendipitous that it came out right in the middle of all this. Maybe we should have thought about that a little bit, but there's no campaign. But it is important. I mean, she deserves recognition on her own. I will tell you, the write-up that they did for her was great. Very proud of it, and yeah, really happy to see that come out. It is well deserved. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I'll pass that on to her. Although she'll listen to this and hear it, she'll be embarrassed. So.
How long do you think you'd be president for, sir?
Randy, we talked about that. Right up front. So the easy answer is I don't have a definite timeline at this right now. What I will say, I'm not going to be a Rich Schneider. So you're not going to be looking for me, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I'm not going to be here. I had a little taste of semi-retirement here, and we were really enjoying it an awful lot. We're very happy to come out of that for this. I'm going to take some grief from some buddies because I think it was just a couple months ago we were out having a couple drinks together, and they're all working hard, and I said, you know what, I'm not taking anything on full time, and now I'm in the midst of all this and getting ready to do it, but this is worth it, and I am looking forward to it. But we talked about the interim title. Are you the interim president? Should we set a timeline, somewhere, and say, hey, we're going to do a national search in X? And I don't necessarily want to walk into that. I will say I really hope in a few years that you all look and say, hey, John, you're doing a great job. We'd love for you to stay. And I say, hey, thank you very much. But Alan or whoever takes Alan's place as the chairman, if I go beyond that, I turn to them and I say, hey, it's time for me to go back to enjoying that retired life, and I'm ready to go do it. So yeah, this isn't a decade long thing for me, but nor do I want to put, unless Alan tells me that we're going to put a definitive timeline on this, and right now our conversations have been no. I intend maybe put it in military terms, right? So you got time-based decisions, you got conditions-based decisions. Right now, what I'm forming in my mind is a conditions-based decision for the tenure of the university, for my tenure as the president of the university. As I get in, as I refine what I'm doing, I'm going to have a vision for where I want to be as I move aside. When those conditions are in place, or I can better set conditions for somebody else, that's when I'll turn to Alan or the board and say, it's time, let's do a national search. But I don't have that firm in my mind yet. And I hope the board doesn't either. So,
let's just call it less than 10 years and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think I want to be doing it. Who knows?
I said less than 10. I said less than 10.
Hey, so I'm sitting here talking to buddies of mine. I got two buddies who have become college presidents, and neither one of them really thought about it while they were in the military. They're both very accomplished generals as well. They're doing really good. And I was talking to one of them when this whole thing broke, and he said, John, he said, I know you're hearing all this stuff about how hard it is. And he says, it's a tough job, but I love it. And they're the two buddies that I've talked to, they both said, hey, my mind has changed completely about it when I got in here. When you get surrounded by, young students, when you get, for us, young faculty who are eager to be teaching cutting edge stuff, it's real easy to get excited about the job, and you can kind of push all the tough stuff, over to the side, deal with that because you're surrounded by really motivated people. I think I don't want to cut myself short in any kind of tenure if that's what I'm walking into. So,
Alan, what about your tenure on the board? I know you've you sold your insurance empire, and you'll be cycling off the board at some point. You deserve it. I imagine you'll shoot a lot of clays. But
looking forward to that.
What's the timeline look like for you?
Well, right now, I've been on the board of trustees for 23 years. It's hard to believe. My term will expire May of 25, in which case my plan is to leave. And however, I'll never leave Norwich in the lurch, but we are working on that succession planning right now. And so that is the plan. And my desire and extreme need is to leave Norwich in good hands. And John is a big piece of that.
What about the next chair? Is there an heir apparent, or what is the process for that?
Well, there isn't an heir apparent, and we do that purposely. But we just recently our two vice chairs, Phil Soucy and Bobby Haney, will be leaving the board in the spring at the same time, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So we recently identified two nominees for vice chair, and David Pierce is one, and John Broadmeadow is the second one. And so already we're put ourselves in a little bit of limbo here, and so we're going to have to replace John, and then come May, we'll do a year-long search for the next chair, and then replace any vice chairs if appropriate. And so we got our work cut out for us there as well. But we have an awful lot of good people on the board, and I think we'll be fine.
But it doesn't have to come from the board itself. The chairman can come from outside.
It does have to come from the board, but it doesn't have to come from one of the vice chairs.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, so we leave that open. As circumstances change and people's, what's going on in their lives change, we want to be as flexible as we need to be.
Okay, so all candidates are trustees.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, right.
By our bylaws. I mean, that's the way it's got to be.
What can grads do to help Norwich right now? What do you need most?
Well, first thing is with John's listening tour, the input, the honest input to him and to us as trustees. And we need everyone to understand our problems and our challenges, and it's on us to communicate those to the very people who could help us the most. And that generally is the alumni. There's no question about that. So we want to listen. We want to gather that information. Clearly, it's not going to be a surprise to us. I mean, admissions is a big issue. That's an area where alumni can help tremendously. Retention, they can help with retention, and the endowment, and they can help there too. So it kind of is interesting that all the solutions seem to be the same.
I've said that to a few people. I've said, you want to be a hero? Recruit 2 people to go up to Norwich. They'll love you.
And make sure they stay.
Randy, we talk about time, talent, and treasure, right? Those are really the, if you got money, hey, always love to take money. Scholarships are absolutely, vital to how we do business. Love to see people put money into the endowment for scholarships. I mean, that really is incredibly impactful when people do that. Not everybody has the means to do that, but going to your local alumni club, talking about the university, as Alan said, find some folks out there. You said, can you imagine what would happen if everybody found even one candidate? If we had alumni out there finding 1 or 2 candidates, to throw out there and talking about the school in a meaningful way. Your talent, what you do with this, I mean, is a great example of that. What your broader Fins and Feathers does with pulling alumni together and exciting them about being a Norwich alum. All these club presidents that are out there that are, pulling things together. We got the Doc Martin Scholarship coming up pretty soon, right? You look at what those guys have done. They pulled together. There's some alum that have pulled together a real meaningful dinner that is contributing to that scholarship, and they're putting a lot of time and effort into that. It's not easy to do those things. So time, talent, treasure. It was interesting on one of your podcasts a little bit ago about social media. I actually wrote some of the stuff down. So maybe the other T, Twitter. And I know there's no more Twitter; it's X. But if you look at social media as a whole, probably going to get lambasted for this one. But you talked about what would you do if you were talking about your employer in a negative way. It doesn't help when we nitpick at the university and stuff like that in a non-meaningful way. But when you're out there and you're talking about it in a positive way and you're selling the university, we love that, and it helps. It really does.
It does.
It helps to define who we are. And I thought your insights on that in one of your last podcasts were very really important. And so even just talking up your school, talking up Norwich and all of the good things it does, in my judgment, helps tremendously. And hopefully we give you the ammunition to talk about it the right way.
What did I not bring up that I should have?
Well, how about I throw this one out there? So we're on a listening tour. You've been asking a lot of questions, and we've been doing a lot of talking. What are your thoughts? You're plugged in. You understand. You've got a vested stake in the university, and what do you want to see us doing? You tell me. Am I on target with what I gave you as my priorities? What do you see out there?
I think you're 100% spot on with the priorities. The big one would be stability. That's just my sense right now. Is people need stability. So, I know we want to be deliberate and thoughtful in this process, but time is still of the essence too. Where if you're the right guy, and I 100% believe you are, then we need the right guy in there as soon as possible. So just my feelings from talking to different grads and stuff is that people want some stability.
Well, sorry to create a little bit more churn with.
There's a good reason.
It is a good reason. I wish you weren't there, but I promise you, I'll get over that, and that's a good one. So one of the things you're going to have is an engaged president who is there, and you're going to see me very involved and hands-on an awful lot of things. So, stability is a good word. I wrote it down.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. You have an open invitation anytime you want to come back, or if you ever need anything from me, please don't hesitate.
Great.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Randy, thanks for having us on, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk. I am going to listen though too, but Thanks for what you do for the university. It means a lot.
That's it. That's the discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, we do this every single week here. You can get information on how to subscribe. It's pretty easy at secondmess.com. Have a great day. Fawn, you can read us out.
Thank you for listening to the Second Mess Podcast. We value your feedback. Feel free to email us your thoughts at secondmesspodcast@gmail.com. For complete information about the show and links to our social media channels, check out www.secondmess.com. Until next time, stay safe and stay connected.